Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on another episode of Basement. I'm joined by a couple new faces today. We have Erica.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on. Xiomara.
Hi.
Did I pronounce that right? I always.
You are. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for joining us. And then Robert.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how is you guys this week?
Good. Productive
Good.
day.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Very good. Pretty good. You guys have a long drive?
No,
No.
it's pretty short.
Pretty
Yeah.
short.
Pretty
Erica.
long.
I know
4 minutes.
you're coming kind of far.
Yeah.
Ish.
40 minutes?
Yeah.
That's a long drive.
That's kind of long.
And how long was your drive?
15, 20 minutes.
Oh, so you're not that
Yeah, I'm down the street.
Okay, cool.
So I was talking with a friend of mine this week, and we were talking about just stuff. But one of the main things we talked about was religion. She was asking me about my religion because I guess she didn't really see me as a religious person or as a Christian. She grew up in the Catholic Church, and she'd go to mass. She went to the schools. She grew up in Catholic school all the way up to the end of high school, and she hit college, and then she just kind of did a complete 180, and she left the church. She doesn't do anything with church, and she doesn't like religion. And I was talking to her about it, and she mentioned that she didn't like a lot of the people, how like two-faced almost, how people would act. They'd come to church and they act one way, and then as soon as they leave, it's completely different, and it's not genuine. And problems with just she felt like there were too many rules in place with her religion. I just wanted to see what you guys think. What would make someone choose to leave the church, or I guess what would drive them to not want to be part of church or just a religion in general?
Okay, well, I could only speak as a personal experience. And
Sure, yeah.
I think there's different factors on why someone could feel that way. If religion was kind of a forced as a child, it wasn't really like explained fully. I do understand the whole rules, too many rules. I like rules. I mean, they're morals to me. It would, be good, receive good, Also, different experiences in life, whether you question God or religion, where it's like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I've been good. I've been going to church since a child. Every Sunday, I did volunteer work. So I think everyone's different. I know for me, it was more of life experiences and feeling religion was more forced on me than rather me grow up and be realizing myself, or is this for me? Is this not for me? Just kind of find where you're at with religion and whole.
So you grew up?
I did, yes. I grew up in a Catholic church. My mom's a huge Catholic woman. Going to church every Sunday was our thing. It didn't matter. We were sick. Had to be front row. We also communion, like first for baptism, first communion, and confirmation. It's like a Saturday school. I went pretty much my whole childhood. I completed one thing, and then it was like on to the next, and then on to the next, and until I was done with everything. And then I still had to go because you can never learn too much of God. That's what my mom would say.
Is that and you didn't agree with that, or you just kind of felt differently?
I felt because I just felt it was forced on me as a kid. I never felt like, well, let me pick my own religion. Let me see where I'm connecting with God in my own personal way. And then it became like, well, do I need to attend church to feel closer to God, or can I just speak to him at home? Does that make me like less of a Catholic? Um, just like judgment of other people or like super churchgoers. And then you're like here questioning. And I think a lot of people don't want to speak up on that because they're like, oh, like, so and so she's not like full Catholic or, wherever your religion is, or she's a fake, or, just that's what I felt, so
Yeah.
it definitely pushed me away from church.
I feel like that's like a big, or I guess a stereotype that a lot of people have against like people who are religious. And I mean, I get it, because I mean, I grew up in church, and you going to church, people talk different, like for sure. It's a different type of speak, and it sounds. I mean, it could sound weird to people who aren't used to that, and it kind of gives off like this holier than thou type of aura. That's not good. I don't know. Didn't you grow up Catholic?
For me, I was very Catholic as well. I grew up Catholic. I was baptized, communion, everything. I went to a Catholic school till high school, all girl Catholic school till high school. So I was practically raised by nuns. So aside from practicing the religion of Catholicism, we studied it as well. The values we were taught, like Beatitudes, Bible verses we have to memorize, and we would actually have a subject called Christian Living Education, and we'd be graded for it. Yeah, so how much knowledge you have about the religion, you'd be graded for. Also, I went to church every Sunday, and we would get points for that. So when we go back to school, our teacher would be like, "Did you go to school on Sunday? If you did, please write what the verse was." And then you pass the paper. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't get the points. So I grew up like, my family's Catholic. I think they, you're just born Catholic. You don't really get to pick. And I left the church about 5 years ago because the way they taught like religion and Catholics in school was different when I went to college and university. That's where, like my eyes opened to the things about the church. So the Catholic Church isn't like a good, I've come from the Philippines, a country where it's predominantly Catholic, and a country that was colonized by Spain, which is a Catholic country. And there's a lot of things that happened during that time. Like, for example, the church kind of forced the religion on the natives of our country. So they used the church as a tool to colonize our country. So I grew up not knowing that. All I knew was you go to church and, you won't go to hell. And I studied the history when I went to university, and I learned about all the bad things that they did. Like, they would, as all colonizations happened, they hurt people and forced themselves into the country. And one of the biggest things I think is like abusing like people, the native people from my country who didn't want to become Catholics. So yeah, learning that, it really made me think, like, does the church acknowledge that, or do they do something about it? Like, do they acknowledge the atrocities they've done in the past? And they always just sweep it under the rug, Yeah. Especially also, like, since I grew up, the country was pretty Catholic.
Yeah.
There was no separation of state and church for a time. But until now, I think the church is heavily involved with like policy, like, you know, reproductive health, all that, especially that. It's like, what if I don't believe in it? Like, what if I don't believe in your church?
Yeah.
Why should my body
Yeah.
be involved in that? You know?
Yeah.
So that's what really pushed me, because I felt like they shouldn't involve themselves in politics. So that's a big reason.
Wow, those things are, that's pretty deep stuff. I didn't grow up in the church early, at least for myself. My parents weren't very religious, but my grandparents were. So when I was a kid, on my dad's side of the family, my grandmother would take us to the Catholic church on Sundays. So I'd be there and we would do the whole thing all the time. Very reverent. When you go there, you got to be quiet.
Yeah.
On the other side, on my mom's side of the family, my grandmother is a Seventh-day keeper. Not Adventist, but a Seventh-day keeper, which meant we were at church Friday night, all day Saturday. So I was at church Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? And for me, it was around third grade, fourth grade, where I got introduced with regarding evolution. And so, being the person I am, started questioning my grandparents about it. And well, my grandma said this. And then so on Sunday, I would go say, well, my other grandmother said this. And on the Bible, it says this. And then my teacher says this. And needless to say, it wasn't going over very well. As I grew up, at least for me, I just decided I know God. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to go to church. I don't need an institution. They're a bunch of hypocrites. It's just policy. It's just a business. It's a way to control the masses. And that was it. I went to college, took all the philosophy classes, all the theology classes, all the whatever. Solidified what I thought. And then I got married. And then I had children. And then I found God. So I went all over the place, right? So, and the circle. And obviously everybody has a different take on what takes you away from God. And I know what took me away, but I also know what brought me back. So it's a little different.
And this is just kind of open for all three of you, how much of a role in you guys initially leaving did the people have to play? Like the congregation, did they play a role at all in your decision to leave?
At least for myself, no. I think it was, I mean, I had, I guess, issues with, everything in the Catholic Church. But no, I don't think it was mainly like the people. I think it was just life experiences and just kind of questioning a lot.
I feel like sometimes, like like you've heard like priests doing some shady stuff, and
All the
that
time. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And they just sweep it under the rug, and like the Vatican doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that are leading like the mass, and like, they're the symbol,
Yeah.
And they do these stuff that's just shady and should be punished for, and should be exposed. And I think that's one if you say people, then yeah.
Yeah, not for me. I think as a kid, I just didn't want to go to church, and my parents weren't like that. You have to go to church type parent. They weren't. I mean, we went. My dad would take us Christmas, Thanksgiving, I think, and Easter. I think that was it. Right? Just for the big ones.
The main ones.
The main ones, you would go, you do your thing, and then we're done. That was it.
Catholic.
But as I grew up, I think it did have a lot to do with the hypocrisy that I thought and that I saw in the institution of religion. That kept me away for a long time. not wanting to be a part of that, what I believe was hypocrisy. Um, and I see what you're saying. The certain churches took a big part about conquering and developing other nations, or if you want to call it develop. Um, they played a huge role. Life circumstances you talk about. Why did my father not live with me? Well, what happened there? Why do people die? And all these questions that we have. Psychology, philosophy teaches you something completely different. And it rationalizes a lot. But for me, I think it I think each and every single one of us has to have a point where we're realizing that our relationship has to be with him, right? And not with the institution. We have to be able to separate the two. For me now, right? I was once asked by a member, "Oh, Robert, how does it feel now to be a Seventh-day Adventist?" And I think I had just gotten baptized. Right? I'm like, I felt good being a child of God.
Yeah.
I felt great. I still believe that I'm more in touch directly here than with the institution, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It doesn't matter what religion you are, Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever. Any institution is going to have some kind of corruption. I mean, we're human, we're men. We're going to make mistakes. So yeah, it does. Outside influences or people around you kind of make you shy away. At least made me shy away from this.
Yeah.
You guys are a bunch of hypocrites. You do this and go to church Sunday morning hungover.
I'm still in church. I never left, but I have had times when I was younger, more like in high school, where I just didn't really like the people, I guess. It was kind of like what you're saying, hypocritical.
Great.
Um,
Big part.
and at the time, I just felt like everybody was just kind of really judgmental. In your teenage years, you're kind of finding who you are as a person, exploring your identity, and you're a little bit more sensitive to, to peering eyes, to, oh, this person's looking at me funny, or I can tell they're talking about me, and I felt it was just being in church because I felt like because I wasn't doing a whole lot, that a lot of people didn't necessarily feel I was religious enough, I guess. My parents are very involved in church, so it's always been, it felt like it was always expected of me to be, super volunteered, super godly, in the Bible every day. But I mean, that wasn't me, and it was, yeah, I could see that it was the people that just kind of turned me off to the idea of religion. I didn't leave, but if anything, it made me not want to deal with people in religion, because boy howdy, they can be some interesting people sometimes.
That's an interesting point. I have two daughters, and I'm making mental notes, right? Because I've become very involved in the church, and I'm trying to think, am I expecting my girls to do the same? And I do. I do, and maybe I need to take a step back and say, okay, you want to do it? That's on you. Let it be. I think a lot of times, I'm watching and listening to you three. It sounds like it wasn't. It was more of a cultural, that's what our family does thing, than an actual connection directly with God. Like, you could learn all the verses and whatever, but I'm just not buying it because I still don't have a connection. That's what I'm hearing. Is that kind of right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I guess it was more like this is what we do and this is what you're gonna do till you're 18 or you're out of my house. And if you don't like it, get the step in. But
Under my roof, my rules.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So the rule was if till we were 18, that was what we had to do: go to church school and Sunday mass.
I kind of had a follow up question for that. If it wasn't so much of a family tradition thing where, hey, we're Catholic, you're going to be Catholic too, or we're religious, you're going to follow this way too, do you think you guys would have, or not even left religion, or would you have gone to a religion, should I say? If it wasn't like just strictly family culture.
Go ahead.
I mean, I believe in God, like the spirituality of it.
Mhm.
It's just that organized religion just isn't for me.
Mhm.
Like I believe in God, like do good, you know. With like the family, you're just born into it. So it's like they didn't even like teach you about it. You're just, oh, this is it. This is us. We're Catholic. This is what we do.
Mhm.
And growing up, you didn't really like have connect. I feel like I didn't really like have a solid connection with like God, like because it was just so forced. Like if you don't do this, God won't love you, you know. So it's like he was more of a judge
Mm.
of my behavior than someone I could go to, you know.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. It was more of a judging thing than it's like, are you gonna accept me? Yeah, it was like if you did something wrong, it's like, oh my god, like he's watching, I'm gonna go to hell. There's no way like you're gonna, It was like I remember as a kid, it was like a constant thought, like, oh crap, like is this good or this is not bad? Like, but this is how I'm feeling, but this is what I'm told. And it was definitely a conflict within myself. It's like, where am I? What am I doing good? What am I doing bad? Am I doing enough for church and God? And yeah, the connection was definitely not there. I want to say that I did try to find the connection as I was older,
Mhm.
but I think I just had a lot of resentment and anger towards religion as a whole that didn't allow me to, I guess, expand, a little bit more, be a little bit more curious and
Yeah.
more accepting, I would say. But I feel like now as an adult, I am getting a little bit more. I'm more of a spiritual person. I used to claim atheist before. Now I'm just like, there's a spirit somewhere. It's the universe is working
There's
its
some sort
way,
of power.
right?
Yeah.
A higher power. I don't
Yeah.
know what, who, but it's just more of a spiritual thing for me.
One of our audience members, not even really an audience member, just a question coming in at us, asks, can you pinpoint a turning point or moment that made you leave the church, or was it more of a gradual decline? I think that question's coming from Loris. Mr. Loris, thank you for the question.
At least for me, it's slowly, I guess, because as a kid, it was always like a confusion, like what's real, what's not real. And then I had something happen to me where I questioned, well, does God even love me? Why is this happening to me? It seemed like I was being picked on. Um, I guess at the time in my life when I was going through that, it just felt a lot of anger towards God. And I was like, well, I was at church every Sunday. I was doing prayer every night. I was doing good. I volunteered. I did Saturday schools. So it just became more of a anger towards it. And I was just not accepting it at all. I
Yeah.
want to say maybe a year ago, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. Lister knows he's been helping with me
Shout out
so many
Liston.
years. Yes. Love you, Lou. Giving me doing, I guess, like our own little Bible studies. It's like, well, what did this mean? What did this verse mean? But what if this, and how does that affect in real life? And just working with me. So I guess like slowly I am kind of getting back into, I don't want to say a religion, just a connection. A connection.
Yeah, that's fine.
For me, it was, I think, really in like university and college where you learn a lot of things. You meet a lot of people as well who are, like they're atheists, they don't, or like, people, there's extreme, like they're super religious, and you're like, and then there was also atheists. So it was a spectrum of meeting these people. And I feel like in university, I was pretty alone because I went to a different town. No one was there, like no family. Nobody would tell me to go to church. It was all me. So I feel like it was gradual that nobody was telling me to go to church, as well as my friends or like the people I was with didn't believe in God. So I think a factor would be like going with a trend, like, oh, my friends don't believe in God, or like they just don't think about him like as much as what I did when I was in a Catholic school. But it was also because of how the church was so involved with with politics, and I didn't like that. But I feel like I really just stopped going because nobody was pushing me to go. And the only time I would go is if I would go back home and my family would be like, oh, we're going to church on Christmas. You have to come. And then I go back and I'm like, oh, mass.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, but Catholic mass is just so boring. It's the same thing every Sunday. And
I'm not familiar. You're going to have to.
Oh, well. So Catholic mass is like, it's very
like a ritual, maybe?
like a ritual.
Yeah.
Like, it's quiet. It's, you have to.
Yeah. I guess like it's like a prayer. It's like, our Father God in heaven. Okay, let's kneel down.
Kneel
okay,
down.
We're gonna hold
get
hands,
communion.
do a prayer.
Prayer.
It's like, it just becomes, I felt like when I was in church, I was like, all right, this is next. Okay.
And you're just
saying this.
next.
Yeah, you're saying just to say it. You're not really reflecting on the words of prayer on it. So it's like, okay, here we go.
Almost, so it was more just like a ritual, if anything.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's because it's the Eucharist. You're trying to it's like the Last Supper, right, or something. Like you get the body and blood of Christ through communion.
Oh, okay.
So it was more of a just routine.
Yeah.
Right. This is what
Sunday,
you do.
yeah.
You know what you're saying. The priest is gonna say something, and you got to answer a certain way.
And they don't change it. Every year, it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's just like the message of the day.
Bible.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's interesting that we all noted that outside influences had a lot to do with what we didn't like about the church. The hypocrisy. Right? Oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. And I talked about, going to church and, they just came from the club the night before and you could tell, or they just got drunk the night before and they're there. Like, stop being a hypocrite, right? So these people had an influence in us being connected with him. And at the same time, it was the people around us that continue to have that influence to stay away. Like you say, well, my friends aren't going, so why should I go?
Yeah.
My friends don't believe. Why should I believe? We're influenced a lot from those around us. And today I was talking with some people, and I was saying, how can we get people back at church? How this whole fellowshipping is nice. And obviously you're not in the church, in this church or you guys, but we do a lot of fellowshipping. We try to make connections and talk to one another. Actually talk, not just in the Catholic Church, at least the way I experienced it. If we would go, we would sit at the pew, see our stuff, walk out and go home. That was it. For us, we tried to do some potluck and we'll talk and we'll chit chat and we'll see what's going on, and it becomes a community, a family. And I think that just as much as those outside influences has pushed us away, they could also bring us back. So, you're doing little Bible studies or questioning, that little connection is going to bring you. I want to pray from now on, if you don't mind. That'll bring you back. Actually being here is like, let me think about it, and you probably go home tonight or watch this when you can, and maybe it'll make you think. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, like
Right.
last Sunday, I went to mass and they were just presenting my baby niece. So, I try to go to church for little special occasions. But what I did like about this church was it just felt everybody was respectful. That's the first thing I noticed, because like you said, a lot of people are hypocrites. They just went, got drunk the night before and showing up still in club attire. I
Mm.
feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
And
face.
yeah, it's like I have a little bit more respect, but
Mhm.
so I did actually enjoy that mass. It was English, so it was a little different because I'm used to the Spanish mass. But I loved it. It was like a little community, everybody was greeting each other, which I didn't have in my childhood church. Um, everybody was singing, they had the prayers, on a projector, they had the songs, the message of and it didn't feel like a okay, 1 2 1 2. It was just like, oh, like, am I enjoying it? I'm actually listening to the lecture, the message, and so I enjoyed. So it was a little like, oh, I did enjoy that, which is something new for me because church it was like, no, I'm not going. I don't care. Like,
Mm.
I don't want to hear it. So yeah, it was nice. So I think slowly I do see myself, I don't see myself being an atheist forever, but that's how I feel at the moment.
Yeah.
But I am slowly opening up for sure.
We have another question coming in. It says, "What changes would you suggest churches implement to create a more welcoming environment?"
Um, I would say be more welcoming, ask more on a personal level, like how are you? Are you okay? I think a lot of people do forget the little things. It's just like, oh, hey, nice to see you. Okay, see you next week.
Mm.
Just kind of just get to know someone a little better. Be more open, more accepting of others. Yeah, just be a little bit more open minded. I would say would bring more people in.
Kind of piggybacking off what you said and also what you said, Robert. I think what would draw people in is more genuine like character, because I mean, when I was questioning and we were just kind of church hopping, you go to church and the greeter says, "Oh, hi, how are you? Happy Sabbath, so glad you're here." And then you sit through service ends, and then you're just kind of there, and then you leave, and then that's it. There's not a real connection that you have with people there. And I think that's really what can bring people in and what can scare people away is that initial connection, like you were saying, fellowshipping with people, right?
And that's interesting because for a while I did a lot of church hopping. And just because I was curious to see if there was any difference. And there was.
Yeah.
But as I wouldn't say I was atheist, I was more agnostic, because I believed in a higher power. It would scare me when some people, "Hi, Robert, how are you? Come on in." Nah,
Yeah.
bro, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're a little too much.
Yeah.
That's for someone who's testing the water, putting their little toe in there just to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Someone comes in here full on, brother, I love you.
It's overbearing.
Is overkill.
Yeah.
So I think there's a balance, at least for me.
Yeah.
I think there should be some kind of balance,
Yeah.
to say, okay, hi, Robert, how are you? Nice to see you again, whatever, versus see you next week.
Yeah. No, I agree. A balance,
Yeah.
but I mean, just creating that connection.
Oh,
is important.
absolutely.
That's why I never really went to any other churches, is because I mean, I did church hop, but at all those churches, it was like I said, "Hi, happy Sabbath. How are you? Nice weather we're having. All right, cool."
Just small talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very. Yeah, it's very small talk. It's very, like passing by conversation.
You know, and I truly believe this. I believe that not every church is for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain churches that are going to cater to your specific needs and your specific personality. You know, some people are a little more introverts, or some people are extroverts, or whatever. Some people are touchy feely. Other people's are like, don't even dare touch me because I'm going to punch you. You
Yeah.
know, I think you're going to find your church where you feel comfortable. At the end of the day, it's not the church, it's your relationship with God. And the more you're with those that believe the same way you do, the stronger you will believe. I believe that, whether it's walking towards God or walking away from God. Because if you're hanging around those that are not believing, your disbelief will grow. That's a fact. You know, you're gonna start dealing with more agnostics or atheists or whatnot. You're gonna start believing it.
Birds of a feather.
Flock together. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I really believe that. So I think it's sometimes we have to really watch. And my mom said about that. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Right?
I don't know what that
Yeah.
means.
No.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, you guys are left out. You got me right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I got you.
I'll translate for those less fortunate.
Spanish didn't teach us.
No.
Yeah. The Spanish should have taught you. I mean, come on, they conquered you guys. Tell me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are.
Ah,
Yeah.
Right? Tell
Yeah.
me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are. And these little sayings that your parents or that my parents would tell me as I get older, I'm like, that makes perfect
there's
sense.
merit in it.
Oh, a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot. And I used to hate it. You know, cuando tú vas, yo ya vengo. When you're going, I'm already on my way back. So I've been basically been there, done that.
Yeah.
You know, don't pull because I know what you're dealing with. I know all those little things, and now they make sense. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
They knew what they were talking about.
They
yeah.
knew exactly what they're talking about. So again, it's who we hang around with that are gonna influence our thinking and our thoughts a lot. So keep dealing with Lou. He's a good guy.
Shout out Lou.
Shout out Leuston.
Leuston, shout out.
Leuston Morris.
Wherever he may be. What do you think? I didn't hear what you.
I completely agree with the people, like, because I went to university, you know, I hang out with people who didn't believe in God, who didn't think church was cool, or that, oh, you believe in God?
Yeah, I get that
That's
a lot.
so-
I get that a lot,
right,
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big factor, I think, because I was trying to like belong, because you were like, I was alone and going to a new university. I was like, I want to like have a group.
Yeah.
And this is what they believed in,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean, they kind of made fun of you know, people want to be edgy, you know, and, you know, it's not cool. It's like, and they're just some things that, is like, I wanted to, you know, have a connection and all that, but it's the people you are with. And I completely agree with, like, if you hang out with people who see like a connection with God, like, and like that's how he connects with you, and not like for example in Catholic Church it's the priest, and like it's not like a community. I didn't feel a community. Like, it's just he's the symbol. He's trying to like emulate what happened with Jesus Christ, and we'd go there to, you know, be part of it. But are we really part of it if we're not making like a community with each other as like individual people, like talking to each other, talking about it? No, it was like a ritual, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I completely agree with that church should be a community where people who believe in God and also want to share with other people, and like, you know, be friendly, be open, be accepting. With the Catholic Church, oh, you don't go with her, she did stuff. Oh, he drinks a lot. No, like, he's just going to church. It's like there's a lot of like, it's like two-faced. Like, they go to church
Hidden
and then
daggers.
yeah, they go to church like they go to church, and the next day they're out there like talking, gossiping about people.
Wow.
That's all the hypocrisy about it. So it's really about being genuine about the like your relationship with God, like, and not like using a religion as like, oh, I'm go to church, I'm a good person.
Or like those people that go to church or they do all their sinning
Yeah,
throughout their week.
I
And then,
confessed.
and I confess, I'm good.
I'm
clear.
good. I'm
I'm
covered
saved.
in insurance.
It's like, okay.
It's like, but you confess to a priest, you know, like, well, that's like an official way.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just do 10 Our Fathers.
yeah,
and
10
you're
Our
good.
Fathers, you're good.
You're good.
You're still going to heaven.
Yeah.
So it's just going through the motions, right? You don't want to just go through the motions.
No.
No.
You want to be genuine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was always like people, you see them outside church and they're like, okay, well, that doesn't really show your church character, which I get it. We are humans, we are living our lives, we do get carried away. But it's like, just be true. That is what bothered me about people from
Yeah.
church. Is like, just be true. Like, if you're a certain way, then you're a certain way. If you're connected with God, you're connected. And, don't try to be like, you're not human and you don't make errors, and don't be judging me because who knows what's behind, your curtain.
Yeah, those are such valid points because we always are looking around to see, and we're always going to be judged no matter what, because the way we dress, the way we talk, the way we carry ourselves, we're going to be judged no matter what. And unfortunately, in the church, there's a lot of, it's just like a mask, like a fakeness sometimes. A facade. Yeah, there you go. It's like, this is my church person. And then tomorrow, I'm outside gangbanging. It's like, really, dude? You're holier than thou just, day ago. And now you're over here, smoking up a blunt, drinking it up or, slapping a girl or whatever, just. And then you go to church and you're like, oh, I'm wearing a suit and tie and
Come to church with your Bible and whatnot.
come to church with your Bible and you've never opened it, and it's all dusty and you gotta no. Obviously, we look at people like that and that's a big turnoff, I think. But on the same token, we have to just remember that it's not about them; it's about you and him. At the end of the day, it's what it boils down to. They can't save you. If we believe in eternal life, salvation, no one could save you. Not your pastor, not your priest, not your friends, not any one of us. It's just you and him. That's it. Nobody else. And if you choose to have that relationship with him, that's on you. You choose not to, that's on you. It's rough. It's not easy.
Nope.
Yeah, I think with someone that is questioning a religion, though, they might see that like, well, why is this person this way now and not? So I think it just adds more confusion. So I think if everyone's just genuine from the get-go,
it would make it easier,
right?
right?
Yeah, like, okay, we're human. This is okay. We're all making mistakes.
A lot of things would be simple.
And, we'll just pray about it, come together and then work on it. But I think, there's just a lot of judgment.
I think that's what really pushes a lot of people away is the fact that we're always trying to put a front, we're trying to just not show where we are. And we're all messed up on the inside. And, we all sin and fall. And, you guys read the Bible. You guys know about the Bible. You guys, and back in the day, the Pharisees and Jesus' days, and, they thought they were holier than thou and they weren't. And it's like, really, dude, this is not a new thing. This has always been there. And I think if we all just realize, I'm messed up, I stumble every single day, I fall, I think of things that I shouldn't think about. It's like, I messed up. But as long as we're trying, I think that's the important part, because he knows our heart. He knows we're trying.
Do you guys think necessarily that there is just one religion that absolutely has a truth? Or do you think it's more of just like they all kind of believe the same thing? What's that?
That's a hard one. Because every religion has like a different like God, or like the depiction of what a God is.
Mhm.
They have different beliefs and different ways that they, push their readings or their scriptures, different ways of interpreting the Bible or their version of the Bible. So, I mean, I wish the universal religion was just be good,
I'll say this. I personally believe that it's not going to be necessarily a religion that saves you, more or less, because to an extent, some beliefs believe closer to this way and others more this way. But I mean, the fact that there's so many religions means that there. I feel like at some point it just boils down to who you are as a person, what your belief is, and your relationship and your connection with God. Because there's so many different Bibles, quote unquote, so many different translations, Bibles, quote unquote. It's hard to say. Do I think that you're a Catholic, you're going to hell, you're Presbyterian or whatever, you're going to hell just because you're that way? I don't think that. I honestly think that it at the end of the day, it's not up to us. It I do firmly believe that there would be people who maybe never have even heard of God or any sort of religion that will make it.
That's a big question, man. I mean, that's a question that you're gonna spend hours with.
Debating. I've spent years thinking about it.
You're gonna spend hours, days, forever debating. That's why there's so many different religions. You know, I think that if we believe in Jesus Christ, I think that the best bet is open up that Bible and read it and pray for understanding. I think that no institution is going to be right, not even the Adventist one at 100%, because we're going to make mistakes. Always. I don't care who you are, where you are, you're human, you're going to make mistakes. I think that if you read the Bible, you really sit down and say, okay, let me try to really understand this, and pray to God and say, God, open up my mind and let me understand what you're trying to tell me here. I think that's what's going to work. Whether you're Catholic, Christian, Protestant, Lutheran, Baptist, whatever, open up the Bible. And I think that's where, I'm going to say it, I think that's where a lot of churches, specifically the Catholic Church, falls short. They don't teach you the masses unless you're going to a Catholic church school. They don't teach you to open up the Bible. Just shut up, listen. Priest is going to say what he's got to say. You answer the way you're supposed to answer, and that's it. And off you go. Your next wave comes in. I think it's open up your Bible, read it, understand it, pray for it, pray for understanding, and then try to live it. That's what's going to help you and save you.
No, it was very well said.
I agree.
It was very well said.
So there's a question.
What's that?
Is there a question?
There is. I don't. Would you like to read it this time?
I can't because the camera's in the way.
Oh. So it says, Xiomara, said earlier that something personal made her leave church. Did you all feel the people outside church were more understanding than those in church with your personal problems? That's a good question. If you guys don't mind, I want to jump on this one first. I think going back to the whole facade of being religious, I think for me, I realized that a lot of people just had a facade and they were completely different people outside of church. So I saw people outside church as, well, they don't really have anything to lose. They're just who they are. you know, I can relate with these people more because I'm with them and I see the struggles that they're going through,
They're
and
more genuine.
they're more genuine. They see the struggles that I'm going through. And I didn't necessarily have that with people at church because, you know, it was happy Sabbath. Nice to see you. See you next week. Nice weather we're having. Stuff like that, you know. I didn't really get to feel that genuine connection that I had with people outside of church. I see now that, you know, it's, you know, you'll have that everywhere. But yeah, growing up, it was more of the people outside of the church. We're all going through the same problems, you know, and it made me feel more human, I guess, to know that I'm going through the same thing, you know, and it's okay to have problems. I mean, everybody has problems, and it's okay to accept that.
I think that the people outside church are more accepting. Part of it is because they're going through the same struggles and they don't want to deal with stuff. Sometimes, so I used to drink a lot. And I wasn't considered an alcoholic because I could handle my drinking, because I never got a DUI, because whatever. If I was on the outside, you know, if I would have gone to church people, they would have said, bro, you're an alcoholic, you need help. But I was hanging out with my buddies and they're doing the same thing. Nah, bro, you're good. So it boils down to the same thing. Depending on what we're doing, that we're going to be judged on, because we're going to be judged no matter what. So if I'm drinking, my drinking buddies going to say, you have no problem. Those that aren't drinking saying, Robert, you have a problem. Now that I'm at church, my church family saying, you're doing a good job. My drinking buddies are saying, bro, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? Are you serious? You changed. You ain't. Yeah, bro, I changed. You know, I'm 46 years old. I'm not going to be 21 forever. You know, I'm not going to be doing the.
Your liver's going to catch up with you.
My liver is going to leave me behind, you know, obviously. But again, it's depending on what it is that you're seeking approval for. You know, sometimes we don't want to hear, Robert, you're overweight. Get on diet. You know, my wife's, no, you're okay, mijo. I still love you, right?
That's so sweet.
Right?
Yeah.
Now she tells me I'm overweight too.
She keeps it real.
She keeps it real. But again, that's what it is. Whether our sin is, I'm drinking too much, I'm eating too much, I'm watching pornography, I am a cheater, I am this, I am that. If someone's calling you out, you're not going to like it. And those that are doing the same are going to accept you. So I think, you know, yeah, people are going to accept you outside because they're probably doing the same thing.
I think for me, the hard part was understanding that people in church still also had the same problems because of the facades, you know, and that kind of adds to the whole, you know, being scared off from church because they have that facade. And a lot of people don't realize, nah, dude, they're out doing this and that too.
So let me ask you guys, because I'm obviously significantly older than you kids.
Wow, obviously.
Obviously. Because you're young, do you think you were being judged more because you were young? Because it sounds like you guys left church right around 18-ish, 20-ish, early 20-ish, when you started having these questions, because you're, as an adult, older person, you're finding your way at that age. You're figuring out what kind of man or woman you're going to be. Do you think that's why you got pushed away, because you weren't quite sure where you wanted to fit in or how you fit in?
Okay, when I left church, I was 16 years old. I do think that if I was to be open-minded how I am now, like me and my mom get into discussions, we're like, well, why do you believe this from the Bible? And then I'm like, well, I just see it differently. Like you might worship a God and, you know, saints and the Virgin Mary and I get that and I respect it, but I could relate more to sunsets and nature and the wind and things I could feel and hear. And to her, it was like, that's nuts. Like, that's you, what? You know, I was like, well, at the same time, though, like, you're saying God created the world, God created the trees, the birds, all these beautiful nature. You know, it's just like, I'm just like twisting it a little bit, you know? Um, and my thing was that I think my main conflict with just religion or, you know, God, was like, okay, someone's putting so much power and faith and please God, help me with this, help me pass my test, or can you help my ill family member, or, you know, different prayers that are kind of extreme. You know, it's like you're just wanting help. Um, so she was just like, you're crazy, like you can't, you know. So I think it was a lot because I was young. She's like, what do you know, like, about life? And I was like, no, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm seeing. It's not just because I'm young does not discount or like what I'm feeling and what I see and what I think. So I think, yeah, I was an issue. I think I was like, you know, you're young. Like, what do you know about life? What do you know about God? You know?
That's rough, right? Because you're so young. Because I remember I at 16, 18, I knew it all. I went to college. I was like, you know, Mom, ¿tú qué sabes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read Nietzsche. I read, you know, Plato, and I know psychology. You don't. What do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that has a lot to do with, at least for me, it did. You know, trying to say I'm smarter now. I'm an adult. I know what's going on. Then we go back to, yeah, okay, mijo. Cuando tú vas, yo ya vengo. You know, when you
Yeah.
been there, done that. Okay, whatever.
Well, yeah, I was what, 5 years ago. How old was I? 16, 16, 17?
5 years ago?
5 years ago?
How old are you?
22. 17.
We're the same age.
Bro, dude, I
22
think
right
you're like
now.
37.
All right, man.
Well, anyway, it was really a time in my life where you didn't know who you were, and like you wanted to belong. I wanted to belong. I wanted to like become something, you know? Like I was like, what do I want from life? Like, is God like even real? And you know, questioning all that questioning, and without anyone like you know, like making you believe, it really just makes you like there's no reinforcement. Like nobody was like, hey, you should believe in God again, or like it was just, you know, your friends who believe the same stuff that you do that reinforce the same behavior and the same beliefs. So um right now, well, I'm friends with Dawson, and you know, he brought me here and we have this discussion, and you know, I do believe in God, you know, and the spirituality of it, like higher being and all that. It's just that I just need like somebody like, why should I be like in a religion or like in a community like that? Like what's the difference? If I can just pray at home, why should I pray at a church?
Do you think that a lot of people feel the same way as you do?
I feel like, yeah, they're like, why do I have to go? Why do I have to show up? Why do I have to show up to a church if I could just talk to him right away, you know, like straight up, like, hey, God, hey, G, what's up? That's what I did today. So it's like,
Do you feel that way?
I do. I just don't see like the difference where I guess maybe like the community, the family side of it. But if you have a connection with God, that connection is going to be with you regardless of where you're at and with who you're with.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I just think maybe like the people, and I always thought Catholics were money laundering.
Because of the Church of the Vatican.
Yeah, like it's like
Bank
give
of
me money,
America.
everything. It's like, okay, at the end of mass, we're gonna ask for, you know, donations for this,
Donations, yeah.
and you know, we're gonna have a fundraiser. I get it, you know, it's a church. You still need to pay light bills and the water, and
business.
yeah,
Mhm.
you know, but it was just too like money, and I don't know. That's definitely
kind of
It was
turned
a
you off a
turn
little
off.
bit. Yeah.
It's like we're here for God. We're here, together. We're not here to just hear money, money. Yeah, it's
Pay your tithe.
Chives.
Yeah.
There's an ATM in the foyer.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
We take Venmo, Cash App.
Mass.
Yeah. I think we actually are getting our 2-minute warning. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to again thank all of you for being out here. Xiomara, thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Erica, thank you for driving from 40 minutes out. Thank you. And then Robert, thank you for coming to kick it with us.
thank you. I feel honored to be up on in here with you youngsters.
You say you're like 5 years older than us. You're fine. You're fine. Before we close out, does anybody have any final thoughts or comments, complaints, questions, concerns? Maybe.
Just stay true to you and your faith and your connection to God, and don't let other outside influences, affect your thought and your religion. And stay safe.
I second that.
Just it's about you and him.
Yeah.
Nothing else. What you do and what it's only he can judge you.
And that's it.
That's it. See you and him. Nobody else.
I agree.
Oh, that sounds great. No, guys. Honestly, I think that it was. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Like, honestly, that was kind of cool. I learned a lot from you girls, not from me. But
Facts.
I
Big
think
facts.
that your parents, all our parents, because even mine, right, want the best for their kids.
Mm.
And sometimes we as parents do things misguidedly but with good intentions. And I think that sometimes we don't know how to teach to have a relationship with God, because they probably didn't know. It was just more like, that's what you do and that's what you do, and
Yeah.
that
That's
nothing
that.
else.
That
Don't
is
question
that.
it, because that's just the way it is. That's who we are.
Mhm.
And I think living in today's age and with all the technology and schoolings and all access to all kinds of religion and beliefs, it's very confusing. But there's a Bible verse, and I don't know it very well, but it says, teach them in the way of the Lord, and they will never depart. Something like that. You guys
At
probably
least
heard
they
it.
will stay true to something. Yeah. I know
Right?
you're talking about
So I think that they put that in within you, and that little itch within you is what's going to bring you to continue to search for him and to have a relationship with your creator. So
All right. Again, thank you guys for being here, and I think we're just gonna close out with prayer. If that's all right with you guys. Robert, do you mind closing us out?
yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I want to thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, Lord, to discuss, Lord, to be open and transparent, Lord, about our feelings, Lord, about how we have grown and sometimes grown apart from you, Lord. But I pray, Lord, that you're with every single one here, Lord, and those listening, Lord, that if they need help or questioning, Lord, to seek for it, Lord, to look for you, that answers will always be there, Lord. You're a good Father, Lord. You know what kind of gifts we need, Lord, and when we need them. You don't give more, but you definitely don't give less. Thank you again for being so wonderful. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.